Hey, Algebra 2, welcome to our new unit, fractions. It's a short unit. In this first video, we'll probably split into two parts, and it will last a couple different nights. We split it because it used to be for a longer, like most things, it was for a longer class time. But since we have shorter times, we thought we'd just split it up. But we made the notes that kind of looks like it's all one piece, and then the homework for it is all one piece. So we'll talk about that in class. But we're going to first talk about what makes a expression undefined, or an equation undefined. So undefined is when the denominator is equal to 0. You might have seen this before. We talked a little bit about it in algebra, not so much in geometry. How you figure out when it becomes undefined is that you set the denominator equal to 0 and solve the equation. You need to do this before canceling any factors. So resist the urge to cancel the factors. If it asks where is it undefined, you don't want the factor that makes it undefined to go away. Okay. Next, actually.
Tyler Condon to the main office. Tyler Condon to the main office.
You hear that, Tyler? Go to the main office. Okay. When are the following expressions undefined? So, pretty simple. You just, let me extend this a little bit. You just take the bottom, so x minus 3, and you set it equal to 0. And then you solve for x. In this case, pretty simple. Just add 3, you get x equals 3. So at 3, it's undefined. Makes sense. 3 minus 3 is 0, and that's what would be the bottom if we plug the 3 in. Next one. So this one we do have to factor, but it's not in order to cancel with anything on top. It's just to help solve. So we get x plus 3, x minus 3, because that is dots. And then you would set each one separately equal to 0, and you'd end up with both plus and minus 3. And then this next one is a trinomial, and you solve them by factoring as well. So two numbers multiplied 8, 4, 2 is going to work, minus 4, positive 2. And we end up with the opposite sign, so x equals 4 and x equals 2. So in these last two cases, two different numbers make it undefined. All right, moving on to reducing. So a lot of this language says reducing, but really it should be called simplifying. It's one of those words that is the more appropriate word. Reducing, sometimes kids think it means that it's smaller, like the result is a smaller value. When it's the same value, we're just simplifying the look of it. So step 1, factor numerator and denominator if possible. And then 2, you cancel common factors. And what you have to remember is this is not necessarily a step, just something to watch out for. You cannot see this all the time. You cannot cancel a term out if it needs to be added to something else. So you cannot cancel terms. You can't write and talk about something else at the same time. That are added, subtracted to, but we'll just say added to other terms. For instance, if you have 3x minus 1 over 3x, you cannot do this. That does not work. You had to have subtracted 1 first, and then you would have been able to cancel if that worked out, but it didn't work out. So don't do that. Bad. Okay, so let's do some practice. One thing to note is that when factors are swapped, like a plus 1 and 1 plus a, that doesn't matter, because we can just rearrange this and say a plus 1, and it's the same thing, and that's 1. However, with subtraction, you can in fact cancel these, and you might remember from maybe Algebra 1 what happens when you do. And just so I'll show you why. So if I wanted to take this and try to match with the top, what I'd have to do is take out a negative 1, and what's left is negative 1 plus a, like that. So you can see if I distribute that, I would get 1 minus a. So I didn't do anything wrong yet. Yeah, I don't plan on doing anything wrong. So negative 1, and then I'm just going to swap these around. I'm going to say a minus 1. So you can see that a minus 1 cancels with a minus 1, and what's left is a negative 1. So you don't have to do that every time. Instead, you just, when you see this happen, you just cross it off and make sure that it becomes negative 1 when you cancel it out. So I put a little negative 1 above the cancellation. All right, down at the bottom, this is where we get into, we have to factor possible. Another bell. So we get 5 minus d and 5 plus d. So you can see here, this and this, they're almost the same. They're just those swapped ones. So I do this, and I make sure there's this negative 1 left over, and my answer would end up being negative 1 over 5 plus d. All right, and again, now we can factor the top and bottom, so we can pull a 2 out of this one. We get 4 minus x. Down at the bottom is trinomial factoring. So two numbers that multiply to 16. Let's see, 8 and 2 would work, but that's not going to get us 8. So how about 4 and 4? X. Looks like both negative will work. And once again, we have this happen. We really want to emphasize to do this part correctly, we get a negative 1 because they're swapped. So in the end, we end up with negative 2 over x minus 4. All right, so that's actually the end of the first video. This is technically where we're splitting the first day in half. But if you're ready, you can move on to the next video.